All right, hey everybody, Greg Mescall here with you. More USA Water Polo live conversations to entertain you here on Tuesday afternoon, wherever you might be. This is all part of our Why We Play series over this week and next. Today we're talking about water polo as a family affair, and so we have one of my favorite water polo families here, the Hill family. I've talked to all these people, I think, at some point or another, but never together in the same Zoom conversation. So thank you, pandemic, for that. We have the Hills here. You probably know them, and if you don't, I'll introduce them. We have Sami Hill. I'll go in age order here. Sami Hill, Kodi Hill, Abbi Hill, Deacon Hill. Thank you all for being here. Everyone in this chat either played water polo, plays water polo at some point, coaches, just super involved in the sport. I'll kind of kick things off, and as we're getting started, if you have comments, questions, I know there's a lot of other water polo families out there that might be watching or kind of have lived this same life. Feel free to drop them in the Facebook comments, and I'll kind of pass them along. I'll keep an eye on those. But I'll start with Sami as kind of the elder stateswoman here of the group. But how does the Hill family get into water polo? So often we hear about, well, my older brother or sister did it, and then we just follow them into it. So since you're the oldest, what was the way into water polo for your family?
It was actually through a different sport. So we all grew up swimming. We were swimmers from a young age. We all did swim team. And we ended up playing basketball. Kodi and I played basketball, and then Abbi Deacon followed when they were younger. But Kodi actually was on a basketball team with my fellow Olympian, Kylie Nuschel. And so they played on the team together, and we used to come watch, obviously. And Kathy, Kylie's mom, approached us and was like, you have to try water polo. Like, you've got the height, you've got the build, like you swim already. It's a great transition. Go ahead and try it. And as the oldest, of course, I'm the guinea pig, so I had to go first. So I think it was like 2 weeks later, my mom dropped me off at the pool and was like, good luck. We don't know anything about the sport. We've never played. And I was pretty much sold the first practice. And as it normally goes, all my siblings kind of followed. Once the oldest does something, I feel like the youngest usually follow, whether they like it or not. That was definitely the case for Kodi. So that's how we got involved, and it's been like that ever since.
And we have a dog in the background. That's great too. Kodi, I know you make the joke often that you're like the odd woman out of this group. You're like the adopted one that doesn't look like everyone else. But you get into water polo too. Was it as simple as just that the way Sami described it? You just got asked and then you fell in love with it immediately?
No. Well, so the reason Kathy even asked us in the beginning was because my hair was green from swim lesson or swim team, because I had super blonde hair. And so she was looking at us saying, okay, I think that girl swims. And so then Sami got introduced and started playing, but I hated it after my first practice. I got in the car and was like, I'm never going back. That is the hardest thing. I thought egg beater was some drill that you had to do that was supposed to be really hard. I didn't know it was like the foundation of the sport. It wasn't a great introduction. I didn't know anybody. Like, I knew Kylie, but she'd been playing since she could swim, like whatever, when she was really little. So I did not like it at first. And then my parents made me go back after Sami had been there for about a month, I think, and was just thriving. She absolutely loved it. So it took me a little bit longer to ease into it, which is like most things in our lives. That's just more my personality, but it worked out eventually, I would say.
And then Abbi, you have your two older sisters are in it, and they're, as you're coming up, right, they're now acclimated to it. They're doing well at it. Was there any way that you weren't going to try water polo? How did that work for you coming up?
Not really. I just kind of went into it right away. It wasn't really a choice. I mean, I played a bunch of sports as well as water polo, but water polo is really just the main one that I focused on. But yeah, I just got into it right away just because they were already in it, and it was just because they were doing it, and it was a family thing at that point. So.
And Abbi, are you more like Sami or Kodi or somewhere in the middle where you tried it and you loved it, or was it a slower process to get into it?
I think I liked it at the beginning. I really like swimming. I'm not a land person. I like to swim, so I think I liked it, and I like being with all my friends all the time. So.
Makes sense. And then Deacon, you're the only boy in the family here, right? The youngest brother of these three accomplished women. What was your kind of path into water polo? I imagine at this point, like, they're going to the pool, you just have to go too, and like you might as well play while you're there. Is that how it worked out?
Yeah, I wasn't asked. Like get in the car, and I was like, okay, practice. That's kind of how I got into it.
And then as you're in it, and we'll touch on this later. I know you've kind of transitioned now into football, but as you're playing water polo, are you enjoying it, or is it more of like a thing you just got to be doing? Because then you end up having some skill with it too.
No, I really liked it. Like it was probably my favorite sport all growing up.
Excellent. So there you are. The four of you.
They were kind of like, we called them pool deck babies because Kodi and I would be playing a game and Deacon would be 2 years old, like bobbing in the shallow end. Always had his speedo on. Abbi and Deacon always in the shallow end, like playing around during a tournament. You could always find them in the pool. So we always called them the pool deck babies because they just, wherever we were, they were. And even for morning practice, we'd get up at 5:15 and Mom's like, hey, take Abbi. And she was 6 or 7. She'd come with us in the car, we'd go, and it kind of was like that for them, which is funny, but that's how it roll.
Yeah.
Just to give people a little context, Sami, what's the age difference between you and Kodi and you and Abbi and you and Deacon?
So it was me, and then I'm 28, and then 2 years, Kodi, and then 7 years, and Abbi, and then 2 years, and Deacon. So I'm 11 years older than Deacon.
Got it. Okay. And so, Sami, you'd explained kind of how you got into it, and a lot of times, people will follow like their parents' athletic pursuits into a sport. Was sports a big thing for your parents? Was that, I mean, whether it was water polo or something else, was there like a foundation of athletics that kind of led you guys into things?
Yes, absolutely. Most of our family plays sports. My grandparents were athletes. Both my parents were athletes. My mom attended BYU, played basketball. My dad played football at Fresno State. And athletics were a huge part of our lives and still are. But I think the thing that my parents did that really helped us along was they kind of just let us play any sport. We played any and all sports. Most people don't know, but we all golf. Kodi and I played golf in high school. We were allowed to kind of test the waters in any sport that we wanted, which I think was so great for us. We ended up going water polo, but we all played soccer, basketball, tennis. My parents really honed in on the idea of dedicating yourself to whatever sport you played. It didn't matter which one we played if we wanted to. Let's say I danced for 1 year, which I am a good dancer, but I'm not a dancer. But I begged my mom and dad, please, I want to dance. They're like, okay, but you can't quit after the first practice when you inevitably understand that dance is really difficult. And so it was kind of free range in what we played, but we had to be dedicated. We had to go to practice. We had to kind of commit fully. So I think that was the basis of our athletic career when we first started.
Yeah, and to that point, Kodi, I mean, how important is it to be able to try a bunch of different things? I think any athlete that is able to excel college and beyond, they always talk about they were able to do a bunch of things. So just to kind of build off Sami's point, did it help that you were able to do a bunch of different things in allowing you to choose the water polo became your thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like especially now kids are starting to become serious about one sport younger and younger and younger. And I feel like by the time you get to high school or college, you're getting kind of burned out. And I think a reason why all of us still love water polo, with like Abbi still plays and stuff like that, but we were able to play a multitude of different sports. I didn't actually choose water polo fully until I was a freshman in high school. I was deciding between soccer and water polo, but they were the same season. So I couldn't play both in high school. It was similar to Deacon. He was still playing water polo, but playing football as well. So, and I feel like it develops you as an athlete as a whole. It's not just certain skills that help you play water polo or certain skills that help you play basketball. It makes you more of a well-rounded athlete. And I feel like being part of different teams and having different coaches and, those experiences all help you towards the end result of whatever sport you pick. But I'm super grateful that our parents let us kind of try out whatever we wanted, and then it helped us really enjoy what we were doing when we did settle on water polo. So yeah, I think it's really, really important.
Abbi, as you're moving into kind of the high school and now you're at UCLA, but you can look ahead, right? You have two sisters that are very accomplished at the sport, right? So whether it's college or the Olympics, I think people can look at it two ways, right? There's like this pressure, like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be good too. I'm a Hill, right? The Hills are good at this sort of thing. But then you also have these like great role models and examples of how to succeed in your sport. How did you kind of handle having two sisters, and how was that a help for you in having two sisters that were really good at the sport?
I think it helped a lot. It's definitely good to have two role models that are just in the family and you're really close with already. When I was in high school, I felt the pressure of having such accomplished older sisters, but once I committed to UCLA, I kind of realized that, they have a legacy there, and I felt like maybe it was my turn to fill those shoes. But I realized through the recruiting process and just when I first got to UCLA that I could make my own path and use that pressure and use my sisters as role models to really help me with that, instead of putting all this pressure on myself to be just like them, just using that to make my own path. And I thought that really helped me, and definitely in my first year of college, just thinking about what they did and what I can do, and just using it all for a positive instead of a negative thing.
And I know it's a tough time now to have the college season cut short, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, but hopefully everything back to normal for you and the Bruins next spring. Deacon, we talked about you playing football now, and this obviously bummed out a bunch of water polo people because they would love to have more people play water polo, but we totally get it. What was the switch like from I'm part water polo, part football to now all the time football? How did you kind of come to that decision, and was that a tough one to kind of just focus on one thing?
Yeah, it was tough to just choose between football and water polo. I mean, water polo was my first sport that I really loved and played and put all my time into. But as football got more serious towards 8th grade, freshman year, I had to decide between football and water polo, and eventually I chose football for high school sports. But I still played club until about my sophomore year. But I knew if I wanted to try and go to college for football, I needed to put all my time into it rather than just putting, 90% each sport, rather than just 100% football. And once I did put 100% football, after I quit water polo, like a month or two later, I picked up my offer from Wisconsin, and we all know who that turned out.
That's awesome, and congrats on that. For those that don't follow Deacon, committed to Wisconsin for football, one of the big programs around the country. If you have been to a UCLA water polo game and you think it's wild at Speaker, try Camp Randall for football on a Saturday. It is also wild. I haven't been. I've just seen it. But we've talked the last couple of weeks about the comparison, Deacon, between basketball and water polo. And there's so many people that love basketball and they love water polo, and they see the similarities. There's outside shooting and picks and screens, and Sami and Kodi were talking about being basketball players back in the day. But what about football and water polo? Are there similarities? Are there things when you're doing football drills or in a game? Is there ever a time where you're thinking like, oh, that was kind of a water polo vibe there? Maybe when someone's trying to tackle you or something.
For me, because rotating your hips in the pool, and then for a quarterback, you got to really rotate your hips to throw the ball. That's like the biggest part of it. Other than that, like in water polo, you got to use your hands to hit people and hit them off. But for football, I guess, but mainly just the hip rotation, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm sure building your leg strength didn't hurt you in football, right? Having being you're a quarterback, right? You want to stand strong and in the pocket or move around. An egg beater will not hurt that at all, right? To give you strong leg strength. Everyone here, the Hills, they're from the Santa Barbara area. For those that don't know, it's in California. It's a really well-known area for water polo. Sami, as you're kind of coming up in that area, when do you realize that not only you're playing this sport, but you're also in this area that is just really good at water polo, and especially women's water polo? Santa Barbara just continues to churn out talented women's water polo players. When did that kind of dawn on you that you were in this hotbed for water polo?
Well, I'd say we moved to Santa Barbara when I was about, I think I was 11. And we had obviously never really heard about water polo or anything. We knew it was going to be an aquatic city because of where it's located. It's beautiful. It's right on the water. And I don't think it was until we were 14 and unders, I think, the 14 under group that I played with, that I was like, okay, we kind of are good. Like, we have a great group, and I'm learning from some really good players that are my age and older. And something that our club always did was play us up. So we played 3 levels above us always. I was fortunate enough to be even on the bench for like a 16 under game, but I was only 13 or 14. And I think they really gave us the opportunity to learn from those who were older, which I think in water polo right now, especially women's water polo, is so important. Recognizing those that come before us and learning from them. But we really have this community in Santa Barbara that is really close knit, and we are dedicated, and we have great practices. And we just felt so lucky to come from Santa Barbara, I feel like. And we just had really dedicated coaches as well. They would drive us hours and hours and hours every weekend to compete in 2 or 3 team tournaments. But those tournaments were the most fun, I would say. We had so much fun playing for club. And yeah, I think it was my first JOs, we were 12 and unders. And we made it to the final round, and we played against Maggie Steffens in the 12 and under. It was in Florida. Yeah. And we had been playing for maybe 3-4 weeks or something, maybe a couple months. So I was so scared. But I was like, we're good. Like, we can do this. I'm having so much fun at that point. It's like an age group, and JOs is so much fun. I miss playing in JOs. I tell my kids all the time, we love JOs. We love JOs. And I think it was just because it was so fun and we were learning that I felt lucky to be part of the SB 805 family and Santa Barbara in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of love. Even just, I'm just looking at the Facebook comments here. A lot of people are, like, we love the hills and Santa Barbara's the best, right? So there's a lot of like love for you guys out there. Kodi, the name of this kind of conversation, right, talking about family in this family here, but to kind of go off what Sami's talking about, how do you describe that Santa Barbara water polo community? Was it really like a family vibe if you're thinking back to like your club and high school days?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at least when we were growing up, one thing that really set us apart is we played with the same group of girls from when we were 9 years old to when we were 18. Like, rarely did people come in and leave, and, new people every year coming in and out. It was a really solid, committed group the entire time we played club, from 10 and unders to 18 unders. And so the chemistry you build with your teammates for 10 straight years makes a huge difference in the long run. It's not kind of, I wouldn't want to say wishy-washy, but it's everyone was there every single day, playing together, learning together, and growing up together, which made it super special and super sad when we graduated and were leaving, like picking different schools. It seemed so bizarre that that group would never be together again, but it definitely was very family oriented. We all knew not only just the girls, but the parents really well. I don't know. And that's something that I also loved about UCLA. It was a very, very tight-knit group. It was like another family after I left a different family. So I think that's, why I liked UCLA so much as well. But yeah, there's nothing like it.
Every water polo family, or even if you don't have siblings that play, most people can relate to someone, whether it's their parents or a neighbor or someone that's part of their club, is the one that drives them all over the place and brings them to practice, and there's like that mom that just materializes with snacks at every water polo. Like, they just know, no one has to tell them, and they have just come from Costco with like lots of things and they're giving it away. So I try and linger near those groups during events. But Abbi, if you think about your parents or as Kodi and Sami alluded to, others in your community, just kind of tell us about what those people did and still do. You're still playing, as far as coming to your games, taking you to practice, all that stuff. What sort of support did you get from the older people, your parents and others in Santa Barbara?
So just like Kodi was saying, it's a really family-oriented community, especially with our club. Everyone's parents or everyone's kids it's just a big family. So I've always felt like I had more than one set of parents on the pool deck watching me, and they never failed to support me throughout my entire time at the club. And even now in college, when I come home and am at a practice, you know, working out during break or something, I see parents, they always come up to me and are really supportive, and just, it's like I never left, you know. It's just a really good support system, even from not just the girls that I play with, but their families. And I always felt like it was just a big family, and I could look to anyone at any time. And, you know, if my parents couldn't drive me somewhere, I never was scared to ask someone to drive me, or, you know, it was just a great group to grow up with. And I wouldn't like change it for anything. I still am connected with a bunch of people from club, and it's just something that I cherish a lot.
And different sport, but Deacon, how do you describe, you all seem very supportive of each other, right? So within the four of you, and I just noticed it from social media, obviously I'm sure there's a group text and all that other stuff going on when you're not around each other, but you post something and Sammy's the first one that's like, yes. And, you know, Abbi does something and Kodi's like, that's my sister. And, you know, just kind of feeds off of each other. So Deacon, how do you describe the way that all of you support each other in whatever you're doing?
It's me being the youngest, I asked them for a lot of advice, you know, whether it's like how to push myself or, you know, there was one point where I was kind of losing motivation because I was just kind of getting stuck doing the same thing over and over again. So I texted them in our, you know, sibling group chat, and I mean, they gave me some great advice, and, you know, I've never had a question with my motivation now since I've read all those texts, and I have screenshots of them still, and I look at them whenever I get, you know, like, you know, same thing over and over, getting tired of doing it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I got to push myself to where I want to be, and that's what they always tell me. So, I mean, it's just really, you know, we push each other to be the best, you know, no matter what we do. And I think that's why we all get along so well, is because we know what's best for each other.
Speaking of pushing each other to be the best, just looking at the Facebook comments, Kathy Nixon writes in, she wants us to know that Cindy Hill was an All-American at BYU in women's basketball. So we got to make sure we rep Cindy's hoop game around the basket. So, and there's more. So I'll just look through those as we go along. Sami, you got the chance to play at the Olympic Games and go through that journey with Team USA, and Kodi was part of the training as well. Abbi's done stuff with Team USA. For a family that has supported you, obviously that was the realization of one of your dreams, but what was it like to kind of be part of your family doing that and having the support of everyone as you work towards being an Olympian?
I mean, if you know me, you know how important my family is to me, and their opinions and their support was everything during my training. I mean, training, and Kodi knows, is the hardest thing we've ever done. And if you don't have a good support group that will celebrate you in your triumphs and also pick you up when you're down, it's really, really difficult. And I mean, Kodi trained until the very end, and there was a day where I was, you know, the best day of my life, and it was one of, you know, the hardest for Kodi. But at the end of the day, we know and we respect each other in that. And she was front row at the Olympics cheering. I looked up at her so much. And at the end of the day, we're family, and that means everything to me. And I knew that on that podium, it wasn't just me who had achieved, you know, this accolade. I was standing up there representing my family, representing our extended family, everybody that helped me get there, whether that's they fed me a meal, or they gave me a ride, or they let me borrow their goggles every time I lost mine, which was a lot, or, you know, those little things I was thinking about when I stood on that podium and, you know, won a medal for this country. And as with most things, you know, they always say, like, it takes a village to raise a child. Same thing with me, and I think athletes as well. You can't do it by yourself, especially in a team sport, obviously. But it's the people that, you know, are in the background who help the most. And I just really wanted to honor my family, and we're so close, and they were really there for me, and it was awesome. I won it for them. So
that's fantastic. And I still love that video. I think we showed it not long ago, where you come in at the end of the gold medal game and make that save, Sami. And it's like, you would have thought that was the save that kept it a 1-goal game and won it all for the U.S. And it speaks to how much your teammates loved you and how much everyone, in the stands were really excited. Kodi, Sami touched on that. It being a tough day for you, but a great day for her. I'm sure it maybe softened it a little bit, right? Being able to see one of your favorite people get a chance to realize their Olympic dream, even though it didn't go the way that you wanted.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that year was so difficult, and I felt so lucky to have Sami there the whole time. Like, having somebody who knows exactly what you're going through in the exact same moments it was just irreplaceable. But at the same time, you're spending so much time together, like with any of our teammates. But I mean, Sami and I bicker like any siblings would, but it was just such a special day for her. And she had been involved with the senior team far longer than I had been. I kind of just popped in at the end and got the opportunity to do the full-time training, which was amazing. I never would ever trade that opportunity. But I feel so lucky that I actually got to go with my parents to go, watch. And Elise Williams was there. We had a big group, but she was one of the last girls training as well, who didn't make the roster. So we were there together. Something I'll never ever forget. And that moment when Sami got put in, I remember, so we scored, and then I was turned around cheering, high-fiving people behind me, because how many goals were we up by? Was it like 4?
Quite a few, yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
but we were
like
cheering
4 or 5, yeah.
Whatever, and someone was like, Kodi, slamming me on the back, and I turn around and see Sami taking a robe off, and then I think I just blacked out for the next 4 hours. Like, I immediately was crying, couldn't control myself for the next, I literally think it was 4 hours I was crying for that long. It was just like so happy, and it was just like the culmination of so much hard work and playing on teams with Sami for so long. And you see all the things in the background where most people just see the end result. But yeah, I'll never forget that. It's funny looking back now, but I was like, oh my God, just relentlessly crying. Everyone's like, is that girl okay? What is wrong?
Just aggressive tears. I like it. Okay.
Aggressive.
It was funny. 2 things there. One, the minute you said that you and Sami bicker a lot, Deacon and Abbi looked at each other like 2 people that perhaps have fought once in a while as brother and sister.
They fight more than we do, but we definitely bicker.
Not so much anymore, but
before her senior year of high school, I was like every day.
Yeah, we fought a lot
over stupid things, but
it's okay now. We don't fight as much now.
Oh, good. That's great. And you guys are able to sit here comfortably next to each other, so that works out well.
Yeah.
This was a year ago. I'd be afraid to get punched right now.
Our parents are rolling their eyes right now, listening to.
I'm sure. This is something that they're all too familiar with. No, I appreciate you guys sharing that, because I know those are like emotional moments. And and people probably don't know this too, but the other classy thing Kodi did was, after not making the team, took the time to personally thank everyone, non-athlete, but on the staff, that helped her through that journey. And I remember being like, this is like one of the worst days you're going through. So to take the time to thank someone for their help, I always thought was really impressive by you. Abbi, you obviously, I would think, have Olympic dreams down the road in water polo. What do you try and learn from your 2 sisters, and just kind of the work ethic this family has as you try and approach that, whatever it might be?
When it comes to national team, it's obviously, I always look up to my sisters because they've been through it. They know what it's like, and they know how hard it is to, be traveling and to be away from family, and, making the teams, and the hours and hours you spend in the sun training, and it's just really hard. But I always think about, their journeys, and both their journeys were a lot different from a lot of people that I think have trained to be Olympians. And I know Kodi was one of the last ones to be cut from the team, but she was just as much part of the team as anyone else. I know that those girls can say that as well. And I just look at them as role models for being great teammates, and, being there for your teammates no matter what you're going through or what your situation is on that team at that moment. And I think that when I'm doing national team, when it's really hard and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to be swimming at for 6 hours a day for 4-day training things. I don't want to do it, but I just think about, they've done it and they are better for it. And they always tell me how hard it is, but it's so worth it. And I think it's just been great to have that, path, and I can look at what they've done and the lessons they've learned, and I can look to them for advice. So I think it's been great to have siblings and people I'm close to talk to about the national team experience, because I think it's a hard thing, and a lot of people don't know the behind the scenes and all the mental stuff that go into it, and personal thoughts about it. And I just think that it's been a roller coaster for me, and I'm only 19, so it's good to have older people to ask about. So
No, you're exactly right. That's a big goal, right? To try and go and do that. First to play Division I at a place like UCLA, right, and then to try and be a national team, and then try to make the Olympics. So it's definitely, I'm sure, helpful to have people to ask. Deacon, you're trying to do something big too, right? It's not water polo, but to try and be a quarterback at Wisconsin is a big thing. That's a big goal. Not to add any pressure, I think you know it already. But even though your sisters haven't done that, right? They're not football players. What have you learned from them about trying to go do a big thing?
You could take a lot away from it. If they didn't play football, it doesn't really matter, because they still put all that effort in water polo, so they know what the grind is like, and they know what it takes to be where you want to be when you're older. Probably the greatest thing I've ever heard is from one of my coaches. He told me, make it hard now so it's easy later. Just push yourself now, make your life so hard now, so when you achieve your dream, it's going to be a lot easier for you to realize, okay, I did it. Like, this is what all that work I did was for. And having Sami, Kodi, and Abbi, just to look up to and take away everything that they've done, and see how hardworking they are, and it doesn't matter what they're doing. Sami puts so much time into coaching, and Kodi her job in her cooking show, and then Abbi water polo, just seeing, whatever happens and whatever I choose to do, after football or something, I just got to put everything forth to it.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with you, Deacon. I'm going to reverse the order here, because you hit on something that I was about to get into, is the passion that all of you put into whatever you're doing. And so your current thing is football, right? Abbi water polo, Sami coaching, Kodi job, cooking, still playing some water polo. So Deacon, in your mind, where does this passion for things come from, right? Is it a thing that you learned from them? Did you always have it? Where do you kind of get that from to kind of go as hard as you do in the thing that you love?
Sami and Kodi, the oldest, so they kind of set the standard for how hard you need to work, and my parents, groomed them for that. So I was kind of born into the work ethic of our family. Nothing less than, if you want to go play at the top level, you got to put in top level work. That's that was the main thing that my dad and my parents taught me, and all of these ones who just kept telling me, okay, you got to do this to get there. And so yeah, and the passion grows over time. My passion was water polo. I thought I was going to play that in college all growing up. But, as soon as I got to high school, the love for football kind of just took over. And if you really love the game, this is what I think, but if you really love the game, the hard work is just part of it. It's not like you don't hate it. Sometimes you hate it, but it's really just it's just hard work is just tough love when it comes to the passion of the game.
And then Abbi, similar, and you touched on this already, right? But you, especially being in water polo, you have siblings that have already achieved some of the things that you'd want to do, right? Whether it's, now you're at UCLA, whether it's win a national title there, right? That's a goal, I'm sure. Go to the national team, Olympics, all that sort of thing. Where does your drive to do all that stuff come from? It has to be more than just, I saw them do it, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is testament to my parents, and just, how they raised all of us. It's just hard work, and, be humble, and, grind as hard as you can to get where you want to be. And the only way to get where you want to be is to work hard and to put everything into it. But obviously I've been playing for, I don't even know how long. So I've had bumps in the road, where I'm just low on motivation and drive to, go to practice every day and go to the tournaments every weekend, especially for club. I think you play a tournament every single weekend. It's hard. So when I left high school, I was kind of in a low point. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to play college water polo Division I for 4 more years or more. I don't know, if I can do it. I was kind of low on motivation. I don't know why. It's just a dry spell and, that kind of thing. But when I got to UCLA, the culture there, and, Adam Wright is a amazing coach. And he kind of just realized how much I actually do love water polo, and I fell in love with it again pretty much. So I think it's when you're playing a lot and you're putting everything into it, it's normal to go through those times when you are low on drive, and I definitely go through that, but I feel like it's also when you're so passionate about it, it's easy to fall back in love with the sport and want to achieve the things that you've been working for so long. You don't want to just give up just because it's hard. But my drive right now has definitely come from my siblings, obviously. They always push me and are encouraging me, and just also my team right now. It's hard to be without them. I haven't seen them in a while, but they are always there for me. And, that's what teammates are for, to push you and to keep that drive in your heart. And, I'm really passionate about water polo. So,
Abby, have you thought about what it'll be like the next time you can kind of be back with the UCLA team?
Yeah, I kind of dreamed about it. I haven't been playing. I haven't practiced in 4 months. It's kind of like this has never happened my entire life. I've been playing water polo for 15 years, and I haven't been without practice for this long ever. So I'm kind of waiting for it. I don't know when it's going to be. It's kind of up in the air, but I'm so excited to see my team again. And, we've got some new faces coming in, and I'm just excited to go back and be on that grind again. But I think it's going to be great. I think we're all ready to come back. So I'm excited whenever that will be.
Just think of it like the ultimate taper. You've never been this well rested. You're ready to get out. You're going to swim real fast that first time. Pace yourself. Kodi, we've talked a bit about your cooking. For those that followed at home USA Water Polo, let's plug Garnish and Gather. New website alert, by the way. Check it out. Very, very nicely done. This is not to troll your cooking. I'm being serious about this. But how do you take the passion you had for water polo, where there's very tangible outcomes, right? We score all the goals, we win the game, I swim this fast, I do this, to now this is a bit more of an aesthetic appeal in food, right? What I think tastes good, maybe you hate. What someone thinks is pretty is not so ugly, but there's a talent to making it look nice and to taste good. How do you bring that same passion into this newer thing that you're working on?
Yeah, after you finish playing a sport that you've been doing for so long, it's kind of, you look around, you're like, all right, what now? Especially with water polo, you can play professionally, abroad, but you stay here, it's kind of, you have to figure out what step is. And obviously I coached at UCLA for a couple of years, and then now I'm into commercial real estate. But cooking has always been something I've loved. It's even when I did play water polo, I was always in the kitchen, cooking for my teammates and baking. And it's just something I've always really enjoyed. And I feel like not one thing, but something they always told us is, if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And so why not try to turn something that I love into, potentially a business going forward. So it definitely started as something that's just super fun for me. And, I'm used to going from the minute I wake up to when I go to bed. And now, I have a normal 9-to-5 job, and then the rest of the hours of the day, I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to do with myself? It's free weekends and all that. So that's kind of how Garnish and Gather came about. But it's definitely something that's turned more into a passion project. I've invested time, and financially, and I took a food photography course online just kind of to learn more about the pictures I was taking, because it's actually a lot harder to make food look good than it seems. So I took that and just kind of random learning how to design a website and things I've never had to learn before, kind of implementing that into this whole new social media game. But the one thing I will say about, something that you might like, I don't like, or vice versa, if you're going to be on a social media platform, you can't be thinking about or catering to the people who don't like what you're doing, because at some point, it's their choice to follow you or not. It's your choice to listen to the comments or not. So, just trying to stay positive and give out positivity and hopefully get back positivity. So it's been super fun for me, and I'm hoping, I can keep doing it for a long time, but it's definitely new and it is a learning curve. So thank you for letting me do the USA Water Polo Lives and stuff. It was really fun for me.
Yeah, totally. No, well, first, it's interesting. I think that there's always going to be haters, out there about anything that you do, right? So if you're drawing a strong opinion one way or another, you're doing something right. Even if people think that that was the worst avocado toast they ever saw, or it was perfect, or whatever it might be. This is probably silly, but you're talking about trying to like craft the right photo or plate something correctly. Does that do those feelings compare if you could think back to like a great pass to a skip shot on a 6-on-5 and you executed it the way you wanted to, versus I just spent an hour and a half prepping something, I cooked it, I plated it, the photo looks great. Are those comparable feelings, or is it just two different things?
I would say maybe in the long run, I still feel like I'm learning more and more about what I'm doing with my food blog versus water polo, because, towards the end of my career it was kind of just natural to me. I wasn't really thinking too much about it, but it definitely feel accomplished after both of those scenarios. But yeah, I feel like repetition and practicing and trying new things it's very similar in both areas. But yeah, I don't think I'm there yet on the cooking part, but we're working on it.
Good to know. I know that Sami has a great recipe for Christmas ham if you ever need something for the Garnish and Gather website. Sami, I want to ask you about coaching. So you've taken that on, coaching at high school, right? And I think even just talking to you over the last, since you started, right, very passionate about like, hey, how do we get our team to go see a game? I want them to learn. I want them to be better in and out of the pool. Did you pick up things from coaches that you liked? Was it a mix of other people you've studied? Where is this kind of coaching philosophy and passion come from for you?
Yeah, I think it's natural to kind of draw on coaches that you've had in the past, and I've been lucky enough to have a wide variety of coaching styles that I've played under. And to be honest, I'm still making the transition from player to coach. I think it takes a little bit of time when you've played for so long. But one thing I really focus on with my high school kids, I coach at Del Norte High School in San Diego. Go Nighthawks. And one thing I really hammer in with these kids is that during high school, it's you want to excel at sports, but you also want to make steps towards becoming a better student, a better person. And I think during the high school period of life, it's crazy and there's a lot of things going on. And I try to, implement some life skills within my coaching style, learning things like we talk about, like being on time, doing homework before, an hour before it's due, not procrastinating, life skills. I try to, teach my kids, which Abbi Deacon looked at each other because they know I struggle with that. So yes, I can be a procrastinator, but I think, trying to coach these kids with the experience that I've had in the pool and out of the pool is something that I really treasure, and I have so much fun coaching them. This next season is going to be wild. I'm not sure what's going to happen. They've moved boys and girls seasons in the same season, and I coach both, so it should be interesting. And I'm looking forward to the challenges that it will bring. But it's been so great. I've learned so much. I've made so many mistakes, but it's been a journey. And I call and I text most of my coaches asking them for advice, and just trying to learn from those who have been coaching the sport for years. So
just going back to the Facebook comments, your dad really enjoyed that last comment about you struggling with homework. So
yeah, I'm sure. I was just telling somebody, Deacon and I are pretty similar. And Abbi and Kodi are pretty similar. And Kodi and Abbi are phenomenal students. Phenomenal students. I was not the best student. I will admit that I was not the best student. Deacon is getting better. He's getting better. But My dad would say that because he knows me and he knows that.
This has been an awesome chat here with the Hill family. As we kind of wrap things up here, we did get a question. Do you guys prank each other at all? Have you done anything fun to give each other a hard time? Is there a memorable story that has ever come about over the years? It seemed like you all love each other very much. I don't know if you would actually try and hurt each other in a fun way, in a prank, but.
Well, Deacon actually pranked us literally 2 minutes before this was supposed to start because he texted our group message. Sami said, okay, like I'm logging on, and Deacon said, oh no, I'm not home yet. Like I'm rushing home, I'm stuck at a light. And we have texted about this maybe 17 times in our group message, like, hey, okay, 4 p.m., be ready on your computer. And he's like, I'm at a light. We're like, first of all, why are you texting? Second of all, why aren't you on your computer? Getting so mad. And he's like, just kidding, right before we were supposed to log on. So that's pretty standard for us. But I'm trying to think of like a.
Deacon and Abbi love to scare.
Oh, that's the best.
Because I'm very jumpy for some reason, very jumpy. And they love to scare me because I always throw my arms up in there. Like if they jump out, I'm like, ah, and I go like this. It's so odd, but
That's like your goalie tendencies.
I guess as a goalie, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But Deacon and Abbi like to hide in our rooms, or they like to hide behind things and jump out and scare us. And every time, even if they scare me twice in a span of 10 minutes, it'll still scare me.
Good to know. All right, so you two are easily scarable. Last thing, is there any sort of like, if anyone watches that show, This Is Us, there's like 3 siblings and they call each other like the big 3. Do you guys have any sort of like, when you all get together, is there some like Hill family greeting? Is there like a handshake, or like the 4-pack is back, or I don't know, whatever. If you want to use that now going forward, you can, but is there something else like that you guys greet each other with, or is it just like, hey?
I think it's just Hill Sibs.
Yeah,
Hill Sibs, yeah.
Hill Sibs, but we don't really.
Abby's way of saying hi is a punch.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think we've just about hit our time limit for Deacon and Abbi to be in the same room. So this has been great. Thanks everyone for joining. All the questions, a lot of love with Jesse Hill, who I'm assuming is a relative, says nothing wrong with procrastination, by the way. So that's one for Sami and Deacon right there. I'm just looking back through. Debbie Ty says she loves the Hill family. Happy to know them.
I just want to say I'm not as bad as Sami at procrastinating.
This is about to get ugly.
Chandler Vilander, what a group. Excellent. Okay, great. Well, lots of great comments. Thanks everyone for watching. Hills, thank you for being here. Good luck in everything that you're all working on. And I'm sure we'll see you at a pool, football field, the Food Network very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.